Blackboard usage. What I'm going to do today is kind of talk to you about what those professional practice standards and requirements are, of which from a review you'll notice them all. You're all doing them. We've all been doing them since fall. And in the online world, we've been doing them even longer. We're going to talk about all of them in some various degrees of detail, and then I actually have a couple of tools for how you can take advantage of maybe doing something a little bit more than you're already doing with those. As Allison said earlier, we're going to have the chat feature on. There is a point where I'm going to pause and ask everybody to respond using that chat feature based on something that we're going to be talking about at that time and where I want to go with the second part of the presentation. And then along the way, if something's happening either with the audio or the video, in other words, the screen that you're viewing, if we have any issues, if you know, Allison wants to shout out, or if anybody has any questions as we're going along the way, this is going to be rather informal. So if you have some questions along the way, please feel free to throw those out if there was something that I said that wasn't clear, and then there will be time at the end for some questions. So let's go ahead and get started.
Bob, what I need you to do is when somebody is logging in and they have a WebEx account, it's automatically going to them. So I've just had to pass the ball back to you. So you may want to reconnect your screen.
All right.
Or reshare.
Yes, you can.
Amy Rogers just took it, so okay, you got it back.
All right, are we good? You can see me now?
We can.
Does it work? Excellent. So we got the splash page there, Baker College FAC12. Everybody's good?
If you can just go full screen with it, we will be phenomenal.
Okay, I am full screen on my screen.
Not seeing full screen on mine.
In the white line, there's a double arrow pointing to the top right and bottom left. Click on that, and that should bring you up to full screen. Makes it bigger, but doesn't give us your full screen size, Bob. We can work with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a 27-inch monitor here, and my screen is showing about 25 of those inches, so I don't know why we're not getting full screen on your side. Can we read what's in the green box?
Yeah.
That's about the smallest text I'm going to have going forward?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we'll just play with that. I don't know if I can, let me see. I don't know if I can make it any larger, but maybe as I get going into some of the other slides, we'll be able to do that. Okay, so this is the current state of where we are with Blackboard. As you all know, there are 4 professional standards or professional practice requirements, and that is to use communication, the assignment link, the grade center, and then the discussion board. So I'm going to talk briefly about all of them, but to different degrees. So these are the tools, and basically what I think you need to think of whenever you're talking about doing something with technology is you have to understand that these are tools in your toolbox, and you need to figure out what's the goal for the lesson. Trying to determine exactly what tool to use is not where you should start first. So it's the goal of the lesson, not the tool that matters. So keep that in mind as we're moving forward. Okay, so before we get into some specifics here, I want to talk about the idea of Blackboard updates, which periodically happens. If you've been around for a while, you've used Blackboard for a while, whether you're online or a face-to-face faculty, you know that there are updates that come around every now and then, and that actually sometimes is going to impact some of the things that we're going to do. It has in the past, and it will in the future, so I do want to kind of briefly talk about that, because some of the things I'm going to talk about today that I'm going to share with you, there might be down the road, because of an update, a slightly different way that we may have to go about doing some of these things. So Blackboard creates 2 service packs each year, generally in around April of some time, and then the next one is about October. Now I say that because last year the October release wasn't released until November, and the April release this year wasn't released till May, but that's approximately every 6 months they come up with the release. Sometimes Baker College will go with the new update. Sometimes there's not enough of a differentiation between what we have, and so we'll wait till the second update. We're actually going to an update in mid-September, basically after Summer 2 ends for the online students, which will be about a week or so after actually 2 weeks after the face-to-face folks end their summer quarter. Blackboard it's not down, but there's no usage. There's no courses going on for a week period of time. And so during that period, Blackboard is actually going to be shut down for 12 hours, and they're going to do the update. Now, there's also periodic patches throughout where there might be some functionality that needs to be improved. There might be some speed decreases or something. So they're always doing that kind of a thing. And usually that's where we get kind of those, help desk or Blackboard updates that you get kind of that blast email in your Baker email that kind of tells you we're doing this is the time. A lot of times they're during the what would be considered slow times from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning, that type of a thing, or first thing in the morning. They don't usually last long, but a complete service pack update, that's a 12-hour process where Blackboard will be down, so we always try to grab it in a time period where Blackboard is not being used. The other thing I want to talk about is often when you go to some training, whether it's face-to-face in a WebEx or kind of working through some material on your own, it's great, you take a couple of notes, you get some ideas, and then later on when you go back to try, it's the ability to actually kind of recall something that was said, or where do I go for some additional help. So what I do want to tell you is we have a number of places that are already available for support for everything that I'm going to talk about and show you today. Probably the best place, if you don't know about it, is to go to the EdTech guide. So I do have the link on the page here. It's guides.baker.edu/EdTech. And when you click on there, there's a number of different tabs. If anybody's ever used a research guide that the library has put together either for your program or your class, that's what this looks like when you get to the splash page. But there's a tutorial tab that you're going to want to click on. And when you get there, this screenshot over here to the right is an example of what you're going to see. You're going to have a descriptor of a particular tool, a little bit of information about it. There's actually a video tutorial where I have walked you through how to use this tool and what some of the particular uses are for it. There's instructional strategies listed below, along with levels of blooms that this particular tool could be appropriate for, and the different types of things you might be considering. Now, although that might be valuable in and of itself, if when you get to this page, this flipped quiz thing happens to be something you're looking for, that usually isn't the case. You usually have to search by what you're trying to accomplish. So over here to the right side, we have tags, which are called labels. And so if any of this type of stuff is what you're looking for, if you're looking for case study critical thinking, digital storytelling, formative assessment, discussion board, one of the things we're going to be talking about today, all you have to do is click on that and it will take you directly to the tutorial or tutorials that are set for that particular subject that you've clicked on. You also have the ability here to request a tutorial. So if you're aware of a tool that you've heard of, maybe another faculty is using, if you're somebody who teaches at multiple institutions and if you know of something else, if you will send a request in, I can actually check it out. If it's a free tool, it's something we have access to at Baker, or it's a web-based tool, I will go figure out how to use it and I'll create a tutorial and post that out for you. Other thing to point out is that this is, there's no authentication required. You don't have to have a password or an ID to use this. which means any faculty or staff as well as students can use this. Sometimes we forget with these tools that it's possible that we might require students to use some of these tools to come up with a different way of completing their assignments or doing assessments. So just so you understand, this stuff is available to them as well. They go to the same spot in order to pull it out. So there's a lot of good information, and again, it is searchable. Also want to point out the ET&L site off of the Baker website. You can get to that. There's a lot of tools out there, a lot of different resources out there for you as far as Bloom's, things like instructional strategies, flipped classroom, all that kind of stuff. Blended learning, which is going to be much more part of our world going forward. And then newly created, you may have noticed this new tab that's been out, I want to say since probably spring quarter, off of Blackboard. When you click on Blackboard, you log into your Blackboard account, you'll notice right about in the middle, there's a new tab. It's next to My Files. It's called My Help. Also for students and for faculty, there are actually some, in case you forget about this EdTech Guide website, if you go to the My Help tab, there's actually a link to this particular EdTech Guide right from that website. There's some Blackboard help there, there's some Google help there, so just wanted to point that out to you as well. So bottom line is, beyond today, if you want to go back and review any of this stuff, you'll be able to do that, because the tools that I'm going to show you today, you will be able to search for them and find them over here in the labels area of the EdTech Guide. So let's walk through the current Blackboard tools and some of the things that we are doing with them and that you may want to consider doing with them. So the first one, communication, we're primarily talking about really two things here, and that is using the announcement, that front page or the splash page of your Blackboard class is usually a good way to do some communication with students. I actually have one that's out there when my class starts, and I put a new one out there to kickstart each week. I'm thinking a lot of you may do something similar. And also, another way to communicate is through the Student Tools app or the Course Tool app or link from the Blackboard menu that gives you access to send an email. So if you want to communicate with one of your students or multiple students, you have the ability to use that tool. The nice thing about that is if you send an email through that tool in Blackboard, that actually gives you a copy. So you kind of have a record in case there's a situation going on in class and you want to do something where you capture all of the communication going back and forth, because if you send the email through this tool, you'll actually get a copy of what you sent and to who. And then there's the assignment link. All of us in online for a while, we've been using the assignment link. And so there's going to be some different things that I'm going to talk about regarding the assignment link. And basically, we're talking about any assignment that you want to have students submit where it's only you and the student can see it. Nobody else gets access to that material. And so when you're working on that assignment from a grading perspective, maybe you're using one of the clickable rubrics or something, giving the student feedback, giving them scores, they're the only one who can see it. And then there's the Grade Center. We're all required to use the Grade Center now. I'm going to also point out here in a minute a new update regarding the Grade Center that is actually going to take place in fall that's going to impact all of us. And then there's discussion board. A lot of different things we can do in the discussion board. Online has been using the discussion board since the inception. And in the face-to-face world, it's one of those tools now that is being required to use. Depending on your division and your campus, everybody has certain rules and regs as far as what they want you to do. Primarily, where I see it being used is little, mini lectures, kind of kickstarting the beginning of a week. You can also use it for tutoring or a walkthrough process of some material. So again, some specifics. As it relates to communication, I kind of talked about the announcement and the using the email area. The assignment link piece, one of the differentiations or other uses for it, is, if you think about it, it's really a digital Dropbox. In fact, before we started calling it the assignment link with one of the upgrades, I think the upgrade 7 in Blackboard, it used to actually be called the digital Dropbox. It was a digital repository for the sharing of assignments with the instructor and the student that nobody else could see it. The difference between that and turning something into the discussion board is everybody has access. That is a public forum. One of the things to consider about using the assignment link is the fact that there currently, as it relates to the assignment link and kind of corresponds with the Grade Center at the same point, is there's clickable rubric that are now built into Blackboard. There are tutorials on how to build your own clickable rubrics and use them to grade that are in that EdTech guide that I mentioned on the previous screen. But it is something that you may want to consider. It allows you to give really nice, consistent feedback. It can speed up grading quite a bit for anybody who's used that. And it's always good to know what the clickable rubric is, even if it's not you that's going to build rubric for assignments that don't currently have them in your courses, because clickable rubrics are being inserted in a lot of courses, specifically things like capstone courses or assignments where somebody wants to collect some assessment data. We're actually using the clickable rubric and eventually going to be using Blackboard outcomes and analytics to capture data that in the past was something that we captured in Word documents or Excel spreadsheets, and kind of a mess to keep track. Use it to kind of aggregate some data together and then finally use it for decision-making purposes. And let's talk briefly about the Grade Center. It's a required element for us. Again, online have been using it all along. For face-to-face faculty, you've been required to use this since last fall. I talked about the clickable rubric, again, tied directly to the Grade Center, and when you actually use that rubric, it automatically places the score into the Grade Center for you. But I do want to point out one new thing. I'm guessing the announcement is going to come out relatively soon, but starting this fall for both online and face-to-face, there's a final grade column that will be used in the course. And so when now if you're using it, there's a total column that has the total points or percentages, however you end up grading your class. And that's pretty much it. Unless you add a final grade column yourself so that the students can see whatever that numerical score is related to a letter grade, that wasn't anything that they were able to get. Now we're going to be required to use that column, but the beauty about it is once you end up entering that letter grade, you use the grading scale that you have for the class, you look at the numerics, you figure out, okay, this student got a B+, you type in B+, hit submit. You now do not have to, starting in fall, go back into Orbit and manually enter the grades in that spot as well. The new Genzabar student information system is scheduled in fall to pull all grades at the end of the fall quarter courses directly from that Blackboard column. So again, this is something that the decision was just made last week. Thought I would add it to the presentation since I have, I've got access to you guys here. This is, so you're getting some new information kind of hot off the press, as it were. I do expect there to be some communication to go out on this in the future. So that takes us to the discussion board, and where I'm going to probably spend most of my time talking about a couple of tools that you can use there.
Bob?
Yes.
Yes, I had a question show up, and I've used the letter grade as a secondary score in the total and had an issue with the letter grades not matching the percentages in the grading scale.
I've heard that happen before. There are two aspects that would have to be looked at. One of them is there's a grading legend, and I don't know if this person is from a healthcare program, but the healthcare division has a different grading scale than everybody else. So that actually has to be manually set in your course, in your grade center, and I can talk to that person offline if that's the case. The only other time I've heard about that, and it actually was a spring quarter student, happened to also be a medical health science faculty. It was a nursing faculty, and it had to do with the person was using weighted grades, and so there was an issue in there that wasn't kind of lining up with the grade scale. That is something that shouldn't normally happen, so I think if that's a regular occurrence or if we find that going forward, that's probably an ITSC type of a call, and they would route that either to myself or some of the Scott and some of those other people.
That have commented neither are from healthcare, so that might be something.
And this sounds like this might be a little bit more of an issue.
And we can discuss it outside of the meeting.
Yep.
So I've got, okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, but that's good to know, because obviously, you know, that could potentially be a problem if Jen Zabar is going to pull grades from a column, and I don't know, you know, if it's the secondary source concept or not. I honestly don't know the answer to that question, but it's probably something that as some IT tech folks over here, they probably want to look at that before we get to December and then go, oops. So great point. All right, so let's talk about the discussion board. Think of this as an extension of the face-to-face classroom and the face-to-face discussion that you can have with your students. This is going to be extremely important for blended classes. There's going to be a lot of talk going forward. You're going to start hearing it in fall, if you haven't already, on the face-to-face campuses about blended classrooms. Baker is not going to be in a financial position to add a whole bunch of classrooms. So if we start having issues with student population and not enough space, we're going to start using the blended environment where there's going to be some reduced seat time on campus and more work going to be done through Blackboard. And so in a blended environment, that's oftentimes where that discussion board can really come in handy and allow you to engage with your students. So again, can be important for those types of situations. Online faculty have been using some type of a discussion board since the beginning of online in 1996. But face-to-face faculty, sometimes they'll struggle with figuring out what exactly am I supposed to do to this. And it just takes a little bit of forethought, planning, and structure. Sometimes the faculty, again, they can struggle with, all right, you know, based on what I'm doing, or maybe I'm teaching a health science class and I got this lab component. So what exactly do I talk about on the discussion board? Well, for the most part, again, a lot of the rules and regs kind of revolve around what the individual campus and the leadership decides. Every campus is a little bit different about what the basic requirements are. Generally, you got to use the discussion board once a week and, you know, post something out there, put something new out there. I did some training face-to-face at the Jackson campus last fall, kind of about a different subject, but Blackboard was brought up. And I had a gentleman who stopped to see me, came up to the podium after I was all done packing up, and he was just new. Again, this was winter quarter, I think I was doing the training, and he had just started in fall, so he came right into the campuses having to use this Blackboard tool that he wasn't really familiar with, and he was able to pretty much figure it out for the most part what he needed to do, but he was struggling on a weekly basis of coming up with something to do in the Blackboard discussion board. So he asked if I could help. I said, sure, and I said, well, you know, what do you teach? And he told me he teaches CNC. And I said, well, first of all, you got to tell me what the heck CNC is, because I don't have a clue. And then once he did, we kind of talked about it a little bit, and I just kind of had him talk a little bit about what was going on in the first week of class. What were some of the subjects? What are some of the key issues that you're talking about? And since part of what we're talking about here deals with machinery, one of the subjects that I heard him say was safety. So that was at least something I could understand, since I didn't really understand the CNC world. And what we did is we went out to YouTube and we found a whole bunch of videos on safety. We found one, I showed him how to insert it in his course and then just kind of ask students a little essay question about what was going on in that video about the importance of safety. And, you know, right away that kind of gave them the aha moment for, okay, now I have other things that I can do. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit today. So when it comes to adding something in the class, like I said before, especially if it's a piece of technology, doing it because it's cool, you know, okay, that might be fun for you, maybe fun for some of your students. But again, you need to focus on what's the goal for the lesson? What are you trying to accomplish? Once you know this, then you can look at what tools might be able to help. As an example, some of you may, I do a lot of woodworking at home and whatever, so I have a lot of tools down in my work area. And I was thinking about this the other day. I happened to have my electric drill in my hand, and it's like, you know, no one who ever bought a drill wanted a drill. What they wanted was a hole. And the drill just happened to be the tool that made the hole. So again, it's the task that matters, not the tool. So some of the things that can work real well in the discussion board for those kind of things to kickstart, whether you're face-to-face, just have to put that one thing in a week, or whether you're trying to engage students in the online world, things like kickstart stories. So what are some of the things that maybe just happened, real-world things that just took place maybe this week that's in the news related to what you're talking about? You know, maybe a CNN story or something like that. I happen to be teaching accounting and finance, and this week we're talking about international currencies in something that I'm doing. So the fact that China devalued their currency this week, that's a topic. So oftentimes if we're trying to engage in making that aha moment or that connection with students, bringing some real world into the classroom can kind of help with that. And the discussion board is a great place to do that. Sometimes you can do it, you know, with text documents, but I think it's also valuable to have things that students can maybe watch, listen to, play over and over. Maybe it's a demonstration that walks through a flow. I regularly in accounting and finance, I'll record little tutorials to walk through a problem because I'm teaching online classes, so I'm not face-to-face in my students where I can walk up to a whiteboard and walk through a problem that they might be having difficulty with, or if they ask me a question on some part of the homework that was difficult, you know, I don't know whether or not I have the ability, you know, I can't see them face-to-face, so this is another way for me to do that, and those are some of the tools I'm going to show you here. And research on visual learners, people that learn that way, will tell you that an image or some type of visual communicates more quickly and deeper than the same idea expressed in text. So at this particular point, I want to ask everybody out here a question. Again, use the chat feature of the WebEx. So have you ever posted a video in class? And if so, did you create it? And I'll give you a couple of minutes.
Bob, are you seeing comments or would you like me to read them?
I actually, with my full screen, I won't be able to see any. So if there's a couple that you'd just like to point out, that'd be great.
Okay. Screencast-O-Matic.
Very good. That's excellent. That's actually a tool I'm gonna show.
YouTube.
Yep.
Creating videos.
Okay. So have you ever had any of your students do this? Has there ever been any situation where you had whether your students did it on their own or whether you had asked them to do that?
No, but excellent idea. Not yet. My students have created ANIMOTO movie clips.
Animoto. Excellent.
Animoto.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool as well. Yeah. Yeah, that's also, for anybody who doesn't know what that is, I also have a tutorial for Animoto that's actually on that guide as well. All right, excellent.
There's also,
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this last one out, that might be beyond the area of my students' knowledge.
Yeah, and in certain situations, absolutely. And again, remember, you know, it's not about the tool. I'll give you an example of a couple of things just to kind of consider. When I was teaching face-to-face, if I was teaching like some management courses or whatever, and probably this happens in a lot of different subjects as well, it's not uncommon that somewhere along the course, if not at the very end, there's some type of final paper or project or something that's due. And if I was face-to-face, regularly it would be very common for me to have the student, or if it was a group project, to get up in front of class and take 5–10 minutes, whatever it is, and do some type of oral presentation. And sometimes we don't think about the fact that we can use technology, and most students are going to have access to some technology to do this, whether they're wearing it on their hip, it's in their purse, or maybe on their laptop. So considering that there might be another way, those people who teach online classes, it's amazing the fact that the technology is staring them right in the face, and they will never consider the possibility of, rather than the student writing up another, you know, 1 to 2 page little paper on something, is there another way that they could actually do that assignment that you would accept that would show their knowledge of that particular subject? One of the things that I've started doing, I just have it as an optional thing, but I'm finding as I go forward, more and more students are taking advantage of it, and they think it's kind of cool. I always put out a welcome video, and I'm actually going to show that in one of the tools here. I put out a welcome video not only at the beginning of the class, it's the first discussion board post, but also I put out one to kick off each new week where I kind of walk through key issues, important things, or whatever. But a lot of us, whether it's face-to-face or online, we actually have our students in that first discussion board, we actually have them maybe do a little introduction of themselves. I've actually kind of set it out as optional. I've given students the tutorial to show them how to do it, and said if you want to introduce yourself with a video rather than writing a paragraph, that's cool too. And in my class of normally 15 students, it's not uncommon for me to have 4 or 5 that take advantage of that. And that number about 6 months ago used to be 1 or 2, and so that's growing. So just to show you another way to do that. Well, that's excellent. So let's get into the 2 tools that we're going to talk about. Again, as a review, you can use these tools in a flipped classroom environment, blended learning environment. You can add the content, and the students can add the content. And for both, there's really a short learning curve. To learn how to do the basics of either of these, it's not really hard to do. And they're both free, which is kind of nice. So let's take a look at a couple of the tools that we're talking about here. The first one I'm going to talk about is Screencast-O-Matic. This is a free screen recorder and sharing tool. You can capture anything that's on your current screen or other screens that you would like to show, and you can place audio and/or video on top of the presentation. When you're done, you save it, and you can share it with your class. There's a number of different ways that it can save. The best way is usually to save it to your YouTube account. And for those of you who don't know, everybody at Baker College has a YouTube account. The reason is that Google owns YouTube, and Baker College is a Google App for Education institution. Our email account is a Google email account. You guys are probably using Google Drive. You might be using the Google Calendar. So part of being part of Google is that the same login information that you use, your password and ID, to get into your Gmail account, to get into Blackboard, these are also going to allow you to get into your YouTube account. So if you haven't set it up, which essentially is 30 seconds, it says, "Hi, I'm me, this is my name, and yes, it's okay to use my information." That's all it takes. Your YouTube account is then configured, and anytime you do anything in Screencast-O-Matic, that's actually the best place to save it. So Screencast-O-Matic, again, is free. I'm going to launch it right now. I do have a tutorial on using Screencast-O-Matic, but they're actually in the middle of the page is a quick demo. I think it's about 2.5 minutes that'll show you how to use it. And you'll have to log in. The reason that you want to establish an account with Screencast-O-Matic is it is also another place where you can get access to some different tools. You can save your material that you build there, though I do not recommend that because the storage space only allows you to have about 4 presentations. There is a free version, as I say, which will allow you to record up to 15 minutes, which would probably be good enough for most of the things you're going to do. You can record the screen, and if you have a webcam, it allows you to record yourself and the screen at the same time, but at the very least you have audio. You publish it to YouTube HD, you got some different file formats and so forth. If you use this tool a lot, there's a lot of there's editing tools and other types of things down below. The Pro version is $15 a year. I've been using this tool a lot, so I actually bought the Pro version a number of years ago. They had a special where it was $36 for 3 years, so basically it was $1 a month. And as often as I use it, which is multiple times a week, it was well worth it. And for me, this was the piece that I liked. There was no maximum time frame, which was nice because every now and then I'd do a tutorial for the EdTech Guide and it was 17 minutes long. Well, if I had the free account, it would have closed me out at 15 and I wouldn't have been able to finish that thing. But again, the free account will work for most of what you and your students need to do. If you find yourself using it a lot, you can make the determination here. But it's relatively simple. There's a new version 2.0 that's out in beta. It's been out for about 6 months. I've actually been using it for that length of time. That's the one that I use. I don't use the 1.0 anymore. But if you have an older computer, that would be something to consider. It's just as simple as hitting start recording, and then you're going to record the screencast. And this is going to launch version 2. Down here is the recorder for version 1 if you have an older device and you want to use that one. Depending on your machine, you may have a Java approval that you have to put in. You'll notice I have this kind of dashed box that's surrounding an area of my screen. I have the ability to click and drag and move this box wherever I need to record whatever it is that I need to record. I can record currently what's on my screen, just like we're actually showing with a WebEx. I can actually open up a website, a web page. I could open up a number of different things. Okay. All right, how's this? Sounds like we were getting some static through my headset. So I'll wait for Allison to get back to her desk. She just went around the corner and popped in. Allison, is this better? Can we hear you better now?
Better.
Okay. Yeah, I think the headset was a little fuzzy, so. All right, so what you have here, I want to point out this area here called narration. This is me talking. Notice the green bar is moving. You want to see that because that shows you're getting volume. If you don't see this, you might want to check. Make sure your volume is actually being recorded. I never worry about anything like screen size or any of that. Basically, at this point, I'm just showing the screen. If I wanted to shoot just the webcam, I can click on the webcam and get that piece. Or I can do both. And that would give me a webcam down in the bottom right corner, as well as the screen. You go down to press record. You're now capturing. It counts you down 3, 2, 1, and you're now capturing your screen. Again, I could have a Blackboard page up here. I could have, some white space, which I do with my accounting finance students, and I walk them through the process of maybe how to solve a problem. I can pull up a website and do a tutorial on that, a little mini lecturette, whatever it is I want to do. You'll notice that down in the bottom, we have actually a timer here, so you can see how long you're going. If you have the free account, again, you want to keep tabs on that because you only have the 15 minutes. When you're done, I just hit the pause. I have the ability to continue recording. I only have 33 seconds. Maybe I wanted to pull another screen up and I didn't want everybody to watch while that screen was loading. I can pause and then go back to hit record. When I'm done or before I'm done, I can actually do a playback here to see if what I've captured is actually what I want to capture. If it didn't work out well, I have a trash can here where I can delete it and start over. And then once I'm done, I hit done. And I have the ability here now to actually record and save. You can see here that it showed my volume. You want to check out this playhead here that it shows volume. That's another thing. If you don't see these peaks and valleys, these little mountains, that means you didn't get the audio piece as well. 34 seconds. I have the ability to go up here and pull down YouTube as one of the other choices to save it. I give it a name. I identify whether I want it public or unlisted, which is probably what you're going to want for the most part if it's something that you're sharing with your students. That's one of the 3 privacy choices in YouTube. There's public, which means everybody can see it. There's unlisted, which means only the people with the link can see it. And then there's private, which means only you can see it. And then there's some special circumstances there. When you're done, you publish. It will take a few minutes to render, and eventually it's in your YouTube account. And that's all there is to it. One of the things that's actually nice about this tool and the other tool that I'm going to show you, which is YouTube, is that they both allow you to grab your finished product and place it in Blackboard in a number of different places the same way. And I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Again, everything I'm showing you is available in tutorials in the EdTech Guide. So YouTube is another one of these tools. Again, it's free. You now know that you have an account. And there's some additional features with YouTube. A lot of people don't know that you can record right in YouTube. When you launch your YouTube account, if you go over here to the right, there's an upload button. And if you click on upload, you have this webcam capture over here to the right. And I also want to point out while I'm here, there's a video editor here, which is nice because whether or not you record your own videos or you go out and find a video, you have the ability to kind of shrink them down, to cut out a piece. Maybe you found a video, but it's 10 minutes long. You really only need 2 minutes. The video editor allows you to carve out those particular pieces that you want. You can actually add various types of effects and animations to the video and so forth. Not really going to show you that today, but I did want to point it out. There are tutorials on how to use that feature once you get a video of either something you create or something that somebody else has and you get it uploaded into your YouTube account. You're good to go. This is that area here in YouTube where you have the ability to set the privacy. There's the public, which is the default. There's unlisted, which is probably what you're going to use for the most part. And then there's private. So if I wanted to change this, I just click on unlisted and I now go to record web capture. And so it's going to pull me up. I'm doing a video of a video here, so I don't know if it's going to show me or not. But generally, it would pull up my screen here. Again, I have a green bar. You're going to want to check out the fact that this is actually moving when you're speaking. And then you have the start recording feature, and there we go. It pops me in the screen. You notice I have a timer over here. I have the start recording has now changed to stop recording. You can see my time, and you can see the green bar when I'm talking. Now, before you actually kind of get stuff going, one of the things that you might want to do is check out your background, maybe adjust your lighting, get rid of clutter that I got back here behind my head, those types of things. Again, you're all set. You can stop recording. You can actually do playback if you want to. And you're going to get this continue button, which is going to actually place this into your YouTube account. And from there, you'll have the ability to grab a particular video, either the one that you created, or you can actually search. You go into your video manager, things that you've created. This little 32-second one is that I worked on here is going to be listed there. Don't panic if you go in here and you get some little sorry, not ready yet, because it does take a while to render anything that you create. But if you have something maybe that you've already built, you know, here's my payroll accounting. This is a walkthrough for a couple of the problems that I wanted to demonstrate for the students. And so I have this.
All right, guys, here's a walkthrough.
Open it up here. Now, in order to actually place this into Blackboard, and this works the same way if what we've just done was a Screencast-O-Matic and placed it in this spot. I just hit share, and then I'm going to, I don't want to use this particular link here. This is a link you could send to somebody in email. You could post this in Blackboard, but I think what actually looks better is to go to this embed and click embed and now grab this code here. You don't have to do anything with it. It's already highlighted for you. It's just a control or a command C. You want to copy this link. And then now we want to talk about how we're going to add them to Blackboard. Again, you add the finished products to Blackboard the same way for both tools. So I'm going to go into Blackboard. And I'm going to go into my test account down here. And you can place videos in a number of different places. I'm going to show you how to do it in a discussion board, but you can also place it in an announcement. You can place it in a weekly folder, or one of the things that I've been doing with since January, we talked about the Grade Center. I actually record weekly feedback for each student and place it right in the Grade Center. I take the last column for each one of the weeks, and that's where I place it, and that's where my students know to go to look for it. So I'm just in a particular discussion board that I have created here, and so I'm going to create a thread. So you're going to want to give it a title, and then in this particular area here, you want to make sure you have your 3 lines of the toolbar, and you're going to go to third row, 4th icon over. Kind of looks like an old piece of film, and it says when you hover over it, insert, edit, embedded media. So if you click on that, you get this new window, and you have 3 tabs here: General, Advanced, and Source. Okay, you're going to want to click on the Source tab, click in the box so that you can see your cursor blinking. You're going to want to paste the link of either that screencast or the YouTube video that you either found or created. And then you're going to go back and click on the General tab. And you should actually see the frame here. Hit Insert. And then go and hit Submit. And our video is now placed. Or any viewer just has to click on our little arrow there, and we're good to go. We launch the video. So that's all there is to it. You can put it again in the seminars or the week folders. You can put it in a discussion board. You can place it in an announcement. They go all the same way. You can actually place it in the Grade Center for feedback as well, too. So if I have an item that I would like to give feedback on, I just hit the down arrow here, quick comment, hit the text editor, which then gives me this box. So I can insert video the same way as we just talked about. So you now have another way to enhance the use of the discussion board. Again, the Grade Center is also where you can use some of these tools, and in that communication piece, having to do with things like the announcements is also another way that you can use those tools. All right, Allison, that's all I got. What kind of questions?
Okay, I just have a couple of quick questions. When students enlist to your YouTube channel, does that mean they can see all of the videos that you have uploaded there right away? I know you covered that, but if you could just go over that part again on how to give students access to just that particular video.
Yeah, actually, when you take and create your video in your YouTube account is going to default to public for the privacy concern. You have the ability, before you record the YouTube video, to change it to unlisted, which would be my recommendation. Then the only people who can see it, even somebody who subscribes to your YouTube account, I have a lot of people because I do tutorials and I make all mine public, so I have a lot of people that subscribe to me, but they cannot see any video that I've created that I have set as unlisted. What I do is I take that link, and depending on if it's a class video, I'll put it in the course, so the only people who can see that video and only that video are those that are in that particular course. If the video is one that I've created, let's say for Allison, she's one of my students, and it's feedback for the week, I'm actually posting that in her Grade Center column. So she's the only one who can see it. Now, if she shows that video to somebody else, that's out of my control. But as far as directly listing something as unlisted, and then only the people that you give access to that particular link for that video will have access to it.
Thank you. Another question, access to your Baker College YouTube account. I believe, Bob, that they can get to that through their Google app icon.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Absolutely correct, yes.
You go in there, you click on YouTube, and it will bring up all of the questions that he ran you through. You just go through, fill it out, and then you're on.
Yeah, if they're in their Gmail or they're in Google Drive or whatever, if they know what the waffle is, that little checkerboard that's over kind of on the right side of the top toolbar, if they click on that, that's all the Google apps. And if it's not on the first screen down at the bottom, there are, I think it says like more tools or something like that. Eventually YouTube will pop up if you scroll down far enough. So you can get it directly from any of your Google stuff.
Another question, and my understanding is students have the ability to use Google Hangouts. Is that correct?
Yes, students can use Google Hangouts and Hangouts on Air. The difference between those two is Hangouts on Air is archived. So in other words, there's a recording that goes to your YouTube account once you do Google Hangouts on Air. Google Hangouts is essentially like this. It's a WebEx type of a situation for up to 10 people, but it's not recorded.
Do we have any additional questions? Okay, well, I would like to thank everybody for attending today. Bob showed us some awesome stuff that we should be able to apply in our classes now. So go out, give it a shot. There, on the EdTech page, there are dozens and dozens of things that you can try. So feel free to use them, contact Bob, or feel free to contact myself. I can help you with some of those as well. But I guess with that, thank you, Bob, very much for sharing your expertise with us. And I guess at this point, thank you for attending, and feel free to log off.
Thanks, everybody.